to the Reformed Film Lab podcast, where we discuss film, cameras, and the analog life. Today, we have a very spicy one for you, the subject of the ages, the question that everyone wants to know. Do you edit your film photos after the lab has sent them to you?
No.
However, before we get into this spicy subject, because we know... let's just tell a little bit of story. John and Bree the other day got into a friendly discussion.
Knockdown, drag out fight.
Here at the lab, which prompted us to reach out on Instagram, Facebook, etc., asking our followers, do you edit your film photos? And so we got a lot of variety of responses. We have a lot of variety of opinions. But before we get into that, I know John's been burning. What do we have on the table today? John, you're up first.
Ooh, yes. We just got a bunch of Lomochrome purple in. How much was that? How much of it was, did we get in?
We got in about 200 rolls, which is actually pretty good for us. It's, I think of all the Lomography films, it's the most popular one we sell.
The good stuff.
So yeah, when they emailed me saying it's back in stock, I told them, I was like, hey, can I have 200? And which normally they don't give us. They'll probably give us like 50 a month, but they actually had 200 in stock to send us. So
50 doesn't seem like enough.
Well, how many
Not
rolls
for
do you
you.
shoot a month?
Actually, I've been cutting back on it. It's been gold mainly, but
Been cutting back.
once a month.
He's talking like it's a drug.
You sound like
It
an
is.
addict.
Lomochrome purple's a drug.
All right, for me, I picked the Harmon Phoenix today because it's already out now. I think we talked about this on the last podcast. They're like, oh, there's a hint somewhere in this podcast.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Of what we have. But yeah, Harmon finally released the 120 version of the film. We went out to Tomoka State Park. You two did and reviewed it. What are y'all's thoughts on the film? I don't know if we talked a whole lot about it in the video. We just kind of showed off the images.
What do you think?
I liked it better than the 35. It had way more range and more detail as 120 usually does, but I just liked it a lot.
Yeah, I liked it a lot better. I'd like to see it shot like in a large format. I think that'd look really cool, but I think there was like Ava was
Like
saying,
6x9.
yeah, like way more detailed, a lot less grain. And I know it's supposed to be a grainy film, but like sometimes with 35 it'd just be way too grainy, whereas with the 120 option, it's a little less grainy, which I like the way it looked.
Yeah, I think for like a 200 speed film, it kind of felt like an 800, like when we scan it and we look at it.
Yeah.
Right, for
and so I think
sure.
on 120, you can get some pretty decent images off of it.
The slide did not turn out really.
Oh my gosh.
Not really.
And we metered. Okay, the one time I did actually meter, and it just didn't. I think we just maybe should meter for like maybe like 100. Maybe might help it.
It needed to be overexposed.
Like a
Yeah, I think
lot.
that was basic consensus, was that we actually had someone comment on the video saying that if you're going to take color negative film that's not, of course, made for slide film, you have like Ektachrome that's rated at 100. But if you're taking something like, a regular color neg and you're doing it slide, it has to be overexposed by one stop at a minimum. And I feel like we did that. We bracketed a pair of shots, and the one shot that was at least one stop, maybe a little bit more, actually looked the best. All the others looked pretty crummy.
That's the one I saved. Actually, we have it sitting.
So, John, it wasn't your fault for the metering on
It
that
wasn't
one.
John's
once.
fault.
It was not your fault. But yeah, I'm excited for it for the 120. I don't think I shot a lot of it in 35 ever since it came out, but I think with the finer grain, I would shoot more of it.
Yeah, I think same.
Yeah. Ava, what's on the table for you today?
We have a new Lomography Sun Kissed. So it's basically color 92, but warm.
Better version.
Kissed
Have you
by the
shot
sun.
it?
No, it looks like it's gonna be better though.
I think you were
The photos look better.
you were kind of hating on color 92 in the last podcast.
I wasn't hating. I just think it was too. This actually does look like, if this image on the front's correct, it looks better. It's not as green, which
Yeah,
I think is
like
better.
the
I think that's kind of the
blue-green.
issue we were all seeing, is it was a little too much of a green cast, in my opinion, like almost like Metropolis, so just too much. But this, hopefully, the Sun Kissed edition will be a little bit warmer tones and it'll look better.
Bree, the quiet one today so far. Although I know
Yeah.
you're not going to be quiet for this podcast.
I'm saving.
Can I see this?
Yeah.
She is
Okay.
prepared for today's debate.
Out of her tree.
What do you have on the table, Bree?
So I have my work belt. I'll pick it up.
$95 later.
It was 83.
The work belt was $83?
No. The pins on the work belt were
The 4
83.
pins on there.
No, that's not. It's not all of them. But these were the most expensive ones. So, anyways, yeah.
Where did you get them on?
Etsy.
That's why they were so expensive. You had bought it
Yeah.
on Etsy.
Should have bought it on Temu.
Ew.
Uh-huh.
No.
I don't shop on any of those websites. I shop on Amazon for life.
So, yeah, I had to give it some personality.
weird.
Well, you're the one who came up with the work belt idea, so
I have energy drink in me, so now I'm like all
John's
hopped
life
up.
has been immensely improved because of the work belt idea. Thank you.
You're welcome, John.
Thank you, Bree.
It actually has been, yeah. No one's stealing my stuff, even
And
though Bree
Ava,
today
too.
was stealing pens from people's belts.
Bree.
Okay, well, I had to put my belt on the table, so.
There are
have an
other
excuse.
pens.
Speaking of pens, and I think I told you guys about this, and this is not any sort of sponsored or anything, but the website Official Exclusive has the best analog pens.
Oh, right.
You guys looked at them, right? I think you did.
I did.
I
Did you buy any?
I haven't bought any yet.
Okay.
I think I might.
Which one
I
do you
need to
think
look
you
at
would
'em.
buy?
I don't know.
So many.
I saw a Kermit one.
Yeah, they have a Kermit the Frog one.
They
They have
have
a
a
lot of
lot.
analog old school stuff, like nostalgic, like 80s, 90s, but they have a ton of different like analog pens. The rugs we have here in the store actually came from Official Exclusive. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah. All right. Well, it's time for the debate. You guys have been pretty spicy the past couple of days, and I was like, no, you need to save it for the podcast. So, where do we as a staff fall on editing film photos? Do you edit your film photos after they've been scanned and delivered? Granted, we get them right away. John, where do you fall?
I think
Let's-
we should define what
yes, let's
editing
preface
is.
what editing is. In my
Perfect.
opinion,
I came up with the definition.
you came up with it. See? Okay, let me say mine, and then Bree will say hers, and then we'll see the different sides, because I think we already all know that.
Well, Bree went to college. I kind of
Yeah,
trust
so-
her definition.
I went to
I
college
knew.
too, and
See?
I'm over on this side.
I knew this was going to come
Oh,
up, okay?
okay.
And so all the I'm going to say it's going to be discredited, okay? Don't let the media get to you guys. The
Look,
woke media,
our
okay?
teams are-
What I say is matters.
Our teams are even. Both of us went to college, and neither of you went to photography school.
So what
So-
what I'm hearing you say is between Bree's degrees and my degrees, we have the biggest brain power.
You probably.
Anyways, to define this is my personal view of what I think editing is. And there was like a little bit of a debate going on, like the comments on the reel we posted, but I think it's like, I think color correcting and density adjustments is not editing, because when you look at a photo, when you're editing it, you're making it to look a way you want it to look. Whereas when I color correct, I'm not making it the way I want it to look. I'm making it neutral. So I'm correcting for neutral colors.
And
like
you, you mean color correction as a lab tech.
Yeah, I'm talking
Getting
about as a lab
somebody
tech.
films
Like
as a
what
lab tech,
we
scanning
do.
them.
Right. So when I scan someone's photos, I'm correcting for neutral colors. Whereas when I edit my digital photos, I'm looking, I want this to be warmer, I want this to be cooler. I'm making it to what I want it to be, not what it should be, if that makes sense.
Okay, that is the John Neal definition of editing. Ava, do you have a definition? I guess we need to have some sort of consensus before we go into the debate. We have to define our terms.
Yeah, because then if someone's talking about, like, I don't know, how people heavily edit their photos, that's different than just cropping, which is technically a form of editing, because whatever you change in the photo is editing a photo. So I don't think cropping is editing in this sense, because you're not affecting the actual like what's in the photo, like the aspects of the photo, besides maybe fixing a horizon, and that would be from either the person that shot it just got it off or whatever, so you're just fixing that. I don't count that as the editing that we'll be talking about
Yeah, I don't
today.
think that's the editing that we were discussing in a very charitable fashion the other day. The cropping, I think we can probably leave that out.
Yeah.
All right, Bree. Bree was off work yesterday, and she was like diligently preparing a notebook.
Yeah. For my definition of editing,
Is this your definition, or is this
Is this the definition?
internet?
No, I did not look on the internet. For this.
Okay.
So I just said photo manipulation that is visually different from the raw file or the negative.
So then I think that we would tend to agree in the sense, like, I'm not really, like, I don't really change, like, when we're scanning, we don't change that much about the image, really.
We're not.
Like, we're just correcting for what the negative should look like, because the scanner sometimes will overcorrect, and so I think we're bringing it back down to what it should look like. Mm-hmm. So I think we have the same-ish view, I feel like, right?
At least on what
a little
editing
bit.
is. It's changing
I
the
think we
what.
all have the same idea of what editing is.
So editing is manipulation of colors, contrast, black points, highlights, shadows, post delivered from the lab.
Yeah.
Would
From
that
the
be, would
after
that
the
be
lab,
fair?
yes.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Because I do think
Because
one
cropping
component.
and cloning don't count.
Yeah, I do think one component of this.
So cloning
at
doesn't
least,
count?
No.
Okay, so
Because you dust.
we had talked about the finger because she was showing me an image today of someone had their finger in the frame, and she was like, "Well,
Front of the
would
lens.
you edit this out?" And I was like, "No, you messed up the photo. Boom, you got to move
I
forward."
mean, I was
So
talking about
easy.
like black and white. We have to clone out the dust.
Oh, okay.
Or like if there's a hair in your lens, it'll
Dust-
be on
okay.
every image. That's not a finger. A
So-
finger is just messed
So
up.
dusting is not included in
No.
this discussion.
Dusting? No, I don't think
No,
so.
because that is an effect of the
your,
scanner.
Your negative being
Doesn't have
scanned,
dust.
the dust is on it, so it's not really part of the true raw. It's not on
Exactly.
the celluloid.
right.
It's just in the air. It's avoidable.
So I think we all have the same definition of when your images, like when your images leave here, there's not really been any editing done. It's just been correcting for what it looks like.
So
Or
I'm a
supposed to look like.
customer. I get my WeTransfer. I download my images, and then from there, if I don't pull them into Lightroom or Photoshop and do anything, I'm a non-editor.
You can
Yes.
crop them
I can crop them. Okay, that's
because
the
we're
exception.
not cropping your image
Right.
for you.
No, we don't do any cropping. They just get scanned. Bree, are we on the same page?
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the only thing after is cropping.
Only cropping is allowed. If
Only
you crop,
Only cropping.
Only cropping.
Okay.
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 And
Let's
my
get
identity
into it.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious where the team has fallen. I don't know if we
I
need
don't
to
think
say.
it's really.
You two are team. We do not edit our film photos. Bree, where do you fall?
I will edit my photos. All the
One
time.
good point that the comments did have is, which I never really thought about, was they have no control over us. That's one thing where I was like, I do get if the images don't look the way they wanted them to look. I could see a little bit, like
He's
a little bit of
already
the reason,
caving.
but for
Yeah.
me, I'm like, shoot the roll. This is no hate on anybody. I'm not saying that this is about anything. I'm just like, shoot the roll the way it needs to be shot, and then you don't have to edit it. That's like my way of thinking about it. I was like, if I just shoot the roll correctly, there won't be any editing needed.
And I mean, and as we're color correcting them, we're just looking for the best neutral that we can see. It also will vary from him to me to Bree because everybody perceives color slightly differently. So I still think that once you get them, you got our best try at making them back to neutral.
Professionals.
And that's all we can give
I
you.
completely agree with that. I even
I already know she's got one loaded in the chamber.
yeah, I wrote that down. I was like, everybody perceives it differently. It's all about perception.
How many pages do you have here? Oh my gosh, it's a dissertation.
Man, I forgot what I was gonna say.
You
Yeah,
have notes.
yeah, it's all about perception, and that's the thing is like, we can scan it, so we have an advantage for our photos.
But we're still looking for the neutral when we're scanning our own.
But
I am.
I
I
don't
don't know
think-
what Bree's doing over
I don't
there.
know what Bree's doing with her film scans.
I don't know.
and
Can we?
that may need some clarity because let's say you go out and you have two identical cameras with identical lenses. One camera has Kodak Actar loaded, and one camera has Lomography Purple loaded.
Very
They're
different.
gonna
The
look
Lomography
different.
Purple, we are not going to color correct that. It's going
Yeah.
to be purple.
Right, it's going to be exactly.
So certain films that have a very distinct look, they're going to have that. Now change up the scenario. You have Kodak Actar and you have Portra 400. They will look different, like when we scan them.
Yeah, Ektar is way more contrasty.
Has
And
more
punchy.
contrast.
It has those
Saturation.
red.
I think
Yeah,
it accents
that
the
red.
reds more. Like even for skin tones, that if you like go and do portrait work on
Yep.
Kodak Actar, unless we highly remove a lot of red, but then if we do that, your other components of the photo will look
Yep.
potentially off. So if I'm
Right.
taking out red by adding a lot of cyan, my grass, my sky, all these other components will end up looking off.
Right.
So certain film stocks are going to have certain color,
Hue.
Variations.
that we don't try to correct out. Okay, go ahead. You're burning.
That also, okay, talking about the different film stocks, that goes to in why we're pros and we're doing it. We know what it's supposed to
That's
look
true.
like, so we're color correcting for what the film's supposed to
We
look
know
like.
what's best for you. Okay.
We know that
Let us take care of it.
We're not going to take all the purple out of Lomochrome purple. We're not going to take all the blue out of
He's in rare form today.
Lomography color 92. We're not going to take all the red out of Ektar. And we're going to look for the like very base neutral skin tones for portraits. So knowing that gives us a knowledge on how to best color correct your film stock that you shot.
Yeah, and I think too by color correct, we're only, then when a color negative film goes into a scanner, the scanner is looking at it and has to invert the base, the negative. You're looking at a negative, it's got kind of this amber color, and it's no different going into an old school traditional dark room. You would put it up in the carrier, you have your three primary colors, and even those you would adjust for like a true optical print. So when we're doing that, we're just looking at it and saying, okay, the scanner inverted this, but clearly there's a lot of magenta in the sky, in the grass, in the person's skin. You take that out and you're like, oh, okay, that looks more normal, like what real life looks like. So if I do that with Ektar, if I do that with Portra, if I do that with a Fuji, if I take out the magenta and get it normal, they will all still retain their original color palette that's unique to their unique film stock.
Yep.
So I think we're all on the same page so far.
Yeah.
So now we get into the actual question.
Do you edit your scans after? So you two are team no. Bree, you said you did.
I did.
Well, why? Why have you come to that conclusion?
Why have?
Why do you edit or not edit?
Who are you asking?
All of you, and then I'll go last.
Me? Okay.
Bree's ready.
Sorry.
All right.
Go.
Bree, why do you edit your photos?
I think film is just a raw photo, just in physical format.
I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, shush.
I'm not.
Wait
I
for
didn't
your
say
turn.
anything.
So yeah, it's like taking a raw photo, in my opinion, and then I don't think the scans can do nearly as much as I can do in Photoshop or in Lightroom. I know what I was seeing. The camera doesn't know what I was seeing, I guess. That makes sense.
Go ahead, John. I know you got a rebuttal.
So my thing is, so let me first just say, like, when I shoot film, I'm shooting it because I want the look of the film, so I'm not going to edit it to change
Before
that
you
look.
continue,
Wait a second.
I'm
He
sorry.
didn't interrupt
No,
you.
wait, no,
I
go ahead,
want
go
to
ahead.
have. I
Is it
do
ironic that the presidential debate was last night? Weren't they interrupting each other a lot
Yeah.
constantly? All right, we're not going to be them.
No,
No,
go
but I
ahead,
do
go
want
ahead, go ahead.
to, like, one of the questions that I have, like, for everyone here is, like, why do you shoot film after?
Okay.
To this.
You know, so I would just,
Yeah,
I
that
don't,
plays into
I
it.
personally just
That's
don't
good.
feel like I
Yeah.
need to color correct. And I'm not saying that I'm like some amazing film shooter, but when I shoot film, it's just, I like the look of the film stock I chose. Like if I'm choosing a purple, I like the purple look. If I'm choosing a Portra 400, I love the neutral look. If I'm shooting Cinestill 400D, I like a little bit of a warmer, like reddish tone. So I pick the film stock so I don't need to go in and edit it after. I just think I like the raw look. Like I like the fact that I take it and it's what I get. There's no editing. I can't change it. That's what I get is what I have in my files. So that's one thing. The reason why I don't. The other thing is I edit so much digitally. I'm like, I just don't feel like editing film. Like I just don't have time. I think I like the way the grain looks. I like the colors. So I think that's part of the uniqueness of film is that it's not changed. It's you get what you get.
I think it goes into also it's like the even the nature of film itself is like the light is hitting the negative and it's making an imprint in the negative and like that's the photo. And like back when people were doing it in dark rooms and then back before that with the pinhole cameras and they were learning with like camera obscura and stuff like that, it was very like original and like tactile. Like they made tintypes and they took hours and hours and hours. We both took the same class, so I'm trying to like how long do the tintypes take?
Oh, I have no idea. I didn't take
It
the
was like
darkroom
a lot.
class.
Not the darkroom class, the photography history one.
We didn't take that one together.
We didn't take it together, but we both took it.
I've never learned about tintypes.
Okay, never
Hey,
mind.
is she her Bree skipped class that day when they come to
Barely.
there.
Anyway, I was just going to say that like it's burning into the negative, and that's the photo you have. That's the original. Like that's what you captured, and that also comes into the skill of the photographer. I think, where obviously, if you're underexposing an image, if I underexpose an image, it's not gonna look good. And I'm not going to bring that into Lightroom to make something look good that I didn't shoot right.
I don't think
I
I don't
like
think that's
that
what we're
of
talking
my
about. There's
stuff.
underexposing an image and you have nothing to work with. You have an
Right.
underexposed, muddy looking file.
Yeah.
Where I think we're
I was
I
just saying
get
that's
that.
what I.
I think
Yeah,
it
yeah.
makes you too
What
more
I like.
intentional. Like if I go into a mindset of like I'm shooting roll of film, it's like and I can't change it. It like makes you more intentional of like shoot it right, and that helps me just make sure my exposures are correct, my focus is correct,
Everything.
and it's just more fun to me too. It's like I can't change it. It's like it's a fun challenge. Like you got to shoot
Yeah.
it right. If you don't shoot it right, it gets thrown out.
yeah, that's what I
That's
was
like
trying
it's just
to
a
say.
fun thing. But
All right, go
You
ahead, Bree.
mentioned dark room and
Uh-huh.
analog. I mean, dodge and burn. Was the original
That
form
was
of
still
editing.
a physical skill that they were doing in the process of printing.
But it's visually different from the negative.
They're bringing out more than what's there, because when you're dodging and burning in the darkroom, you have, if the highlight is too bright, but the way you're exposing the shadows is fine, then you cover the shadows to bring out the highlight.
I think it's close enough
Wait
to
a
like
second,
color
wait a second.
correcting and density adjustments, right? I mean,
It
it's pretty
is.
similar. Wouldn't you guys say?
It's
Or
just
no? I
physically.
don't know that much about it, to be honest. Ava, dodging and burning like yesterday, I did not know what that was. So I don't know much about it, but it seems pretty similar to like what a density adjustment would be. They just couldn't do it because they didn't have a computer.
Exactly.
Yeah, I could see the density adjustment is exposure adjustment. You know, if the scanners scan your image and it's too bright or too dark, we can lower it if there's enough information in the negative. And so you would do, I mean, your exposure time on a traditional enlarger, you expose longer or less, is going to influence the brightness or darkness, overall exposure level. But then dodging and burning is going in and looking at an isolated specific thing. It's almost like taking a mask in Lightroom or Photoshop and saying, I'm only going to edit or bring up this particular part or down part. I think I'm in agreement with Bree. That is editing.
It's still
So-
all in the negative.
I wouldn't have
You're
dodged and
not-
burned when I was doing it.
You're
though.
not adding anything to it. It's
So is
still
if you're
in the negative.
Doing the same thing in Lightroom. It's all in the
No, because
it's
you
all
can
in
just
the
add
file.
brightness where there wasn't brightness.
But dodging and burning is just changing the density. Is that correct or no?
It's specific parts. Like, I'll send you a YouTube video
Okay.
and we'll educate you, John.
but then in
But it's just
Lightroom,
different. I mean, a density adjustment in a scanner is going up, and like you can literally see the whole image going up or down stops in terms of getting brighter or getting darker.
so just doing a specific part
Yeah,
of the
a
image.
dodging and
But-
burning is just looking at maybe a very specific spot on an image and making that spot darker or lighter, like a very specific spot. And you'd have to get in front of the light. It's a whole process.
it's
but-
a very
So yeah,
a
we said it's old
process.
school.
So what was your
editing.
what was your point though, bringing this up?
Dodging and burning.
Yeah.
I think it's a form of editing.
So I wouldn't
I
have
think
done it
that
then.
was the original.
If I was darkroom printing, I wouldn't have done it.
But you brought up Ansel Adams. You were like, who didn't edit his photos? Ansel Adams. And
Well,
I was like,
I didn't know
actually,
that, so I was wrong.
you did.
Boom.
Dodging and burning.
I
There was a photo that when I was doing my research, because I'm good like that.
John is going down.
But there was a picture of Ansel Adams that I saw, and one was just a regular darkroom print, like no changes to the print at all, no dodging and burning. And then the other one next to it had dodging and burning, and they looked so different. But that's what he wanted his work to look like, so he edited it.
Did it have any contrast filters?
I don't know.
I will say that there was
still
no.
editing.
If you're including dodging and burning as editing, then contrast filters in the enlargers are editing. Changing the f-stop is editing. So when you're using an enlarger, you have the f-stop and then the brightness of the light. And then the time it's on. Would changing it from 5.6 to f11 be editing?
I'm confused.
Man, we're getting super technical on
Yeah,
the
we are.
old school aspects of it.
Yeah, well, I would also say too, back then there was no digital, so I think you should edit
Right.
your digital images. So if Ansel Adams, I bet he would have edited his digital images and not dodged
I
and burned
remember
his film.
hearing him talk about that, talking about the fact that digital would come on the scene and what it would be like. I think there is some sort of quote or commentary he had on that, but of course that was certainly before his time. But I think it was on the horizon. But I think for us, okay, sure, darkroom, but we're talking about like digital. Are
Right,
we bringing
yeah,
it into
Yeah.
Lightroom or are we bringing it
Not a
into
good
Darkroom,
Photoshop.
I feel like darkroom is in and of itself its own thing
Art.
because it's not. You're still shooting it, but the way you process the negatives are so much different than what we do here that I feel like as of right now, it's kind of obsolete in the
Yeah.
discussion.
So now let's just say like Lightroom, specifically pulling it into
So we're talking
Lightroom
about
and editing
Lightroom and
like
what we do.
and editing like cut. Like I think like, and I'm not joking. I think it is egregious to pull your film scans into Lightroom and edit the color on them. Like if you're going into gold and like pulling out and like making it cooler, it's like don't shoot gold then. Shoot a 50D or an 800T or something if you
Something
want
else.
the cooler tones. And I get very intense about it, but it's
But
like
that's
this is what it is.
That's the unique part of film is it has there's so many different film stocks. So you can find the one that you are looking for and shoot that one. Whereas when you're shooting digitally, you're shooting the natural and then you're making it how you want it after. But if you're shooting, like, you can make it look like Lomochrome purple. You can add purples and take away other colors and stuff like that in Lightroom and Photoshop. But then with, like, all the different film ones, it's like, if I want to shoot to have purple in it, I'm going to shoot purple. And that already has it. Did that make sense? I don't even know.
I think it does.
Well, I think we'll probably digest this, take a break, and we will keep this discussion going on the second half. So stay tuned. Hey, thanks for tuning in to this week's podcast, The Great Debate. Do you edit your film photos? So to say thank you for this week, take 15% off your next processing order with us. Whether you edit your photos or not, we won't judge. Well, some of us won't. Use code EDIT right here, and this code is going to be good from 1 week from the publication of this, so use it within that time frame. And if you're listening at a much later date, I'm sorry. Back to the show. Okay, well, welcome back to the second half of the podcast. Things are looking a little different today. We had technical difficulties yesterday, and we're having to re-record the second half. I really won't say why, but I will look at the person responsible. I think there's multiple views going on. Anyways, Bree, kick us off. I think you had a good question from the first part that's worthy of discussion because it plays into kind of our answers as to why we edit or why we don't.
So the question that I have is, why do we all shoot film? Like, what got us into it, or why do we gravitate towards it?
All right, Mr. Argumentative, you're up first.
I shoot film just because of the unique look of it. I think I shoot digital so much, or used to shoot digital so much. I try it now, but I used to shoot it a lot, so I was like, I wanted a unique look for film. So that was something where there's so many different types of stocks of film and different variations between black and white and color. And so when I go shoot a roll of film, it's just a unique thing that I can almost step away from the digital world of like perfecting it and be like, just go out and have fun and just
Well, you used to
film.
hate on film.
Yeah. Back before I started working here, all my sisters used to get like disposable cameras and bring them to the lab right when they first opened up. And I was like, disposable cameras are so stupid. Just get a digital camera. It's just so much easier. And then I came here and I was like, pretty cool. And then I got obsessed with it.
Ava?
I mean, I also started shooting it because I started working here and I saw all the films, so I naturally wanted to try it. I never really got into it beforehand or thought about it beforehand. I really shoot it for the look, though, and the differences between the stocks really was attractive for film to me. That English is weird, but whatever. You know what I'm trying to say.
She's attracted to film, people is what she's trying to say. She's a weirdo.
There's probably a term for that, some psychological term, having a strong, passionate love.
I'm sure.
I think that's a thing where people have like love for like objects and they end up getting named something.
Film
right?
cameras in that, and I'm definitely that.
Oh yeah,
But
we're gonna start a series called Ava's Camera Addiction because how many film cameras do you own now?
I need to recount
5,000.
them. I don't have 5,000. Okay, I have
50.
at least 20.
I overheard you talking about one
little
with John today. You're
over.
going to buy another one?
Yes, I had been looking at a film camera for months, trying to get John to go in on it with me. And then a friend from school actually just texted me today and was like, "Hey, I'm cleaning out my collection. I'll sell this one to you for $200." And I'm like, "Yes, please." So she's actually coming tomorrow to.
Oh, she's going to bring it to the
Yep.
lab?
Who is
Okay,
it?
sweet.
Veronica.
That's the one you've been talking about for a while.
I've been talking about that one for a long time. So I'm really excited about that. But
That's cool. All right,
That's
Bree,
kind of off
why do you shoot film?
My very first photography class in high school was a film photography class. We started on film. That's what my teacher introduced us on. So I went through the whole darkroom and processing experience, and I think I kind of held on to it. And I also love the idea of like holding my photo as a tangible item. I think that's a really cool experience. So I think that's why I shoot it.
Yeah. Seems like we see people printing their photos more too. Like just in general, people of course get the digital scans, but people are getting the tangible. I like my scans, but I want something to hold.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
have the negative, but then you actually have the print. Of course, that's how it was, 30 years ago. That's all you would really get pre-digital. But yeah, the tangible seems to be a big thing that people are going for.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, my turn. So I started shooting film, I think it was probably about 8 years ago. I shot film, of course, as a kid growing up. That's all we had. My dad bought me my first film camera for Christmas, like when I was like 12. And it was like this Minolta power zoom. And I would go out and do wildlife shots with it. They were not very good.
We have them somewhere.
Yeah, we have a
around.
book
They're
of
pretty
it,
cool.
some of my old photos. And eventually, I think in high school, I kind of got into other hobbies. But then when I got back into college and then in graduate school, I felt like school was getting really stressful. I needed a hobby, something to do for fun. And I got back into digital photography and shot that for years, got back into wildlife photography, portraits, did a few weddings and things like that. And I think I just kind of got burnt out on it. And for some reason, I can't really remember why, but I got a camera, shot a roll of black and white film, and when I got those first results back, I was like, I think I'm going to do this for a while. Like ended up being way better. I think we talked about this yesterday when John screwed up the microphone, so we'll talk about it today. I think I valued the photos more because you only have so many. I got my first roll of black and white film back. It was photos of Jules and Sarah like in the backyard, and I was like, I really valued them more versus going out with my digital camera and taking like 300 photos because it's so easy.
Yeah. I think on that same vein, actually, I've noticed even in like because digital, you shoot them and then you can put them on a laptop and look at them right away. Whereas film, you have to wait for a long time for them to be developed and scanned and sent to you. And then, so on. But I think even when I shoot digitally, I've noticed if I like just got back from the shoot and I'm like, honestly, I'm not too sure. Like I'm kind of kicking myself. Maybe I messed up or whatever, or I just don't think I'm going to like the results. I wait and don't look at them for a number of days. And then I'll pull it in a Lightroom and be like, actually, these are good. Like, they're not that bad.
Well,
and that's something that Natalie from Daytona State kept telling me, because she's like, just stop looking at them right away if you're not sure, because you're going to be thinking about how that day went, how you felt, and all those whatever negative if you think you did a bad job. Then the next few days, that'll wear off, and then you'll look at them for the photos, not maybe the experience.
Yeah, I think that's like built into film photography. You shoot it, you send it off to the lab, and it could be anywhere from a week to 2 weeks before, between the mailing and the waiting and the mailing back, you actually get your images. So I think there's the waiting period probably, I don't know, makes you like the photos more. Just
Yeah, it gets you
see them right away.
like excited to like even with the Super 8, you were like, when's the Super 8 coming in? I'm ready for the footage.
Yeah.
Like, it's part, and then like that's fun
gonna
too.
be our
Like
next video.
if I shoot a roll over the weekend, I'll be like, I kind of want to go into the lab like right now and just go to bed. I'm like, no, wait, I'll wait till Monday. I'll get excited, have fun. But I think that's part of it's also really cool being able to work here and develop it and seeing. I don't think I would have gotten into it as much as I had if I hadn't been able to do it, because it's so awesome being able to like get your film, shoot it, and then be able to go develop it yourself. So like, if anyone ever has a chance to like go develop film yourself, it's a really cool experience, and it makes you cherish it so much more because you're doing it. It's just cool. It's a fun experience.
Yeah, the few field trips we've hosted, all the kids have liked it, coming in and seeing the process. We had a high school group actually come in. I think they probably enjoyed it more because they had been taking a class throughout the year. They had shot film and mailed it to us, and then they were able to come and actually see the process here. I think they definitely valued that field trip, I think, a little bit more. But so back on the topic of editing, clearly we are still divided. You had brought up, though, yesterday, I think, a really good reason why you should edit your photos. I think it was the starfish photo. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so before I ever started working here, I want to preface by saying this.
So she did not have access to the lab scanners herself.
Yeah. I had sent in a roll of film, and there was this starfish photo that I took in an aquarium, and it just came back, and it was a little flat because it was dark in the aquarium.
Because she underexposed it.
Whatever. So I brought it into Lightroom, and I edited it so that it looked how I saw it in my own eyes. And it looks a lot better now.
Yeah, you were showing off the photo, and it definitely, you showed what the lab scan was, and then you showed off what your edit was, and you definitely rescued the photo. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
That's where my thing was, though, is like, that's well and great, but that's why I love shooting film, is because you do have those differences of like, the way I shoot film is like, once it's shot, it's done. Like, I'll color correct it for neutrality, and maybe do some density adjustments on our scanners here like I would do to anybody else's film. But after that, I try not to edit them because it's like, it's a challenge. It's like, once I go out and shoot film, it's set in stone. So if I mess it up, it's like, oh, it's messed up, throw it out, get a new roll, try it again. So that's something that's fun for me, is just it's a fun challenge. It's a fun experience. But I guess if you don't like that, then edit your film photos. But I just don't think it's right. No.
I don't know. I enjoy the challenge of film in general. I'd have to agree with John. I think it's nice to scan my own film, but I would trust John to do it. I would trust Bree to do it. I would trust Michael to do
I don't know
it.
about Bree, but I'm just
So
I'm joking. Bree's
like-
a great lab tech. It's everybody else. I'm just joking.
She is. So I'm not like, obviously I have my own preferences, but like everyone here scans really well.
And it's going
And-
to do a good job.
And is going to do the best of their ability to make your scans look as good as they can. And we're human, so we're going to mess up every once in a while. So we apologize for those times, but I think in general,
what do you mean by mess up? Define that, because I think
I don't know, maybe not like we've had a few like developing problems in the past, but I was meaning with like the scanning, I mean more of like, oh, maybe we could have taken out one more magenta, or we could have like maybe like, it depends again on the person's eye and how they're perceiving it, like we had talked about.
Which we've had people reach out to us and say, hey, like, well, with the color correction
Yeah.
being turned off, like, so we have had times where like the color correction was turned off, which is where it's just a neutral look on like our Noritzes. And people will say, hey, like these look really magenta, like is something up with it? And we're like, oh, yeah, our scanners were not corrected. So they'll send us back, then I guess we'll rescan them. So if we do make mistakes, a lot of times we can correct it. There'll be a few times where like there'll be a development mistake, but that's just part of film. It's just it's going to happen sometimes. But overall, I feel like we're pretty good at being able to correct the mistakes if they happen.
Yeah, it's like what we talked about in the first part of the podcast. We basically correct your film for neutrality, and so Kodak Ektar will look like Ektar, Portra will look like Portra. But once you see your scans, if you think, there's too much magenta, there's too much yellow, I think that's where me and you are basically right. Like, yeah, go ahead and edit that further, like tweak it to get it just how you saw it in the scene, because you're the photographer, you know where you were. I think for me, I'm generally inclined not to edit the photos. I will normally do maybe like a black point adjustment or like a highlights. So that's kind of like dodging and burning, but we're not going to get into that.
No.
But aside from that, I probably don't edit, but I'm not opposed to it because I feel like they generally come out well. And, you know, one thing too, like when I went to New Zealand, I was very purposeful in what films I chose to shoot.
Very mindful. Very demure.
Very cutesy.
All right, you're gonna have to show that to me later. I have no idea what that is.
We'll show you.
But yeah, when I was in New Zealand, I purposely brought Portra 400, and I brought other photos for a specific look. I shot Lomochrome purple and Hobbiton.
It actually, there were some really cool shots.
Those are
for
cool
you.
ones.
Yeah, that video is coming soon.
That wasn't edited,
But,
by the way. Okay, we kept the purple.
Another thing that I want to point out is like we all have access to the scanners. Like work, I don't know about you. I spend a lot of time on my own scans because I can, you know.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
spend most
I don't treat my film better than anybody else's. Okay, I treat them all the same. Bree, on the other
sorry,
hand,
I-
over there might.
I was gonna say the only reason I take longer is because I'm actually like I'm looking at the photo.
Yeah.
In like, okay, I see what I did there, or whatever.
Right.
Like I'm not. I wouldn't say I take longer color correcting.
I don't like Michael was saying.
I think you can
selecting,
overthink it.
And selecting your film stocks too.
Sometimes.
Like, he was saying like once we all have so much experience shooting film, where like, and this is not to be private, but like once we have our film stock and like we shoot a film, it's gonna pretty much look great every time because we know what we're doing. We've been doing it for years. Like when we shoot a roll of film, we don't have to spend as much time color correcting or doing like density adjustments just because it's usually spot on. I mean, obviously we've all made mistakes and we still make mistakes shooting
Oh, yeah.
film.
Yeah, if your film is well exposed and you're using a pretty good lens that has good micro contrast, your film's going to look how it should. And there's other photographers, I'm sure you can, you know, if you're listening, you can comment, like I shoot Kodak fill in the blank because you know you're always going to get a distinctive look.
Gold.
Right.
Kodak Gold, yeah. That's what John always shoots. So, but again, the idea of post-editing, I think you're right. Like we have the ability to really fine-tune the color balance. And if we can do that and spend extra time on it, but if a customer gets it and says, well, this looks really great, but it's not quite just where I wanted it, then they can go in and tweak it. And I think that's probably where the
Yeah,
divide
like, do it
tends to fall.
yourself. I'm done with it. I'm just kidding.
No, but yeah, it's what goes back to the thing of like I just think like for editing, it's just such a unique thing that I just choose not to because. But like I don't know if I mentioned this in the first part of the podcast, but it's like to each his own. I mean, if you want to edit your film scans, go for it. But for me personally, I enjoy the challenge of not editing because it's like that's what I got. If I'm shooting gold, I know I'm gonna have warmer tones. That's what you get. I'm gonna have a lower speed film, so if I shoot it in darker climates or
Light.
what's that word? Darker environment. In darker environment,
Climate is
it's gonna be
wild.
underexposed. But if I shoot in her T in a darker environment, it's gonna look better. So that's where it's like I enjoy it because I don't have the ability to like have that like cushion. Which I mean, I guess if you mess up your film though, it's gonna be messed up. You can't really save it in Lightroom. If it's really messed up.
Yeah.
Right. I think too though with the editing, it's like if you're gonna edit your film photos to look a certain way, just shoot a different film stock.
Like if you're gonna turn your color to black and white,
there's
just shoot
so
black and
many
white.
different film stocks.
You did that, Brie, right?
I did.
All right, tell us about that.
I did.
It's kind of funny. It's funny to me because you picked the most expensive film to convert to black and white.
It wasn't.
What was it?
It was a disposable.
Oh, I thought it was Portrait 400.
So did I.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe we used Portrait 400 as an example yesterday.
I think we used it as an
Okay.
example.
Well, then I guess it's okay.
No, it was
No,
a
it's not okay.
disposable, and it was an expired disposable that I waited too long to develop, so it was just bad, and so I put
Yeah.
it in black and white, and it was
Yeah.
fine.
We've
Guess
had
with
that
the
happen
colors.
where people send us really old expired films, so the color dyes are terribly faded. So we send them the images, and we're like, hey, there's really not much we can do about this. Your film was 20 years old. So there's an exposure on the film, but the color's faded. So I think we had a customer years ago reach back out and say, hey, no worries. I actually just converted these to black and white. And she attached one to the email, and you wouldn't have known it came from color film because it just looked really good. So I think there are times when, again, editing, changing up the negative
I think
works
when,
in your favor.
You know what they say, when in doubt, black and white.
No, I will say off of that point, like you can't change it, but like that goes back to like picking film. With picking film is like if people pick expired film to shoot because of the color change. So I'm like, I get like the whole like. I mean, if
John,
you
this is
can't-
not the artsy fartsy crowd.
No, if you
We're
can't-
talking about people who like found
I know, but I'm
images from
saying,
20
though,
years
once
ago
again,
of their
that's different.
kids.
That's a different
I think
situation where it's like
the
if that's
old film is a very unique
Right.
situation because it's nothing they can control. And even like if they didn't shoot it, like if they found it from someone else,
They're just
that's
happy that they
not-
got the image.
Right.
Yeah.
At
Yeah,
that
that's
point, they're
true.
like, I'm going to do whatever I can to make it look as
That's
good
true.
as possible. And because of the color dyes in the film degrading over time, that converting to black and white makes a clearer photo because you're not having to look through maybe the super magenta or whatever, like all the weird colors.
So does that
So-
fall under editing in your definition?
I feel like that falls under
that's what we were talking
there's
about
nothing
too.
else you can do with it. Whereas if you're
Right.
shooting film, like you as a photographer is
you're
shooting
right.
film, that's
Yeah.
slightly that's
I
different.
think that was the point of the poll, like when we put it out on social media and got all
Yeah.
the responses. I think people were just understanding, okay, I've got scans back from the lab. From there, am I intentionally bring them into
right.
Lightroom
Like
and Photoshop?
as of today's
and tweaking
scans.
talking
things.
like generally, 'cause I feel like there's a lot of different, like specific criteria. Where it's like, okay, in that situation, then yeah, if it's
Well, we had to put out a
20-year-old,
clarification video. Like, what did you guys mean?
Right.
Okay, we're clarifying that it's not color balancing. It's not exposure adjustment. It's going in and saying, the greens in this photo. Let me pull up the green saturation slider. 'cause
Right.
Or
that's
the whole
really
saturation.
which I
Saturation.
just disagree. It's like I just don't think it's
It's like the film's supposed to look
right.
like
The film's
that.
supposed to look the way it's supposed to look. Leave it.
I'm gonna send you a video of me like tweaking just one color, and
I
I'll just
know.
send it to you and be like, "That's what I'm doing tonight."
Yes.
Just,
well, it
just to
makes me
freak you
angry.
out.
People
Me
like,
too.
do
I'll get on-
people?
I'll
Well,
get
no, when
on
people
that.
like on digital, it makes me annoyed too.
Oh, when
Like,
the
people like these crazy
oversaturation
casts,
in
I'm like,
digital is
what are we doing?
rough to me.
Anyways, back to the film though.
Back to
I just
the
don't think it's
film.
right. Like if you're shooting gold, you're shooting it for warmer tones. If you're shooting it or T, you're shooting it for nighttime. If you're shooting like a 50D, you're shooting for cooler tones. So it's like pick the film you want to shoot. You don't need to edit it. Like
And
just
there's a
pick the
lot of
film for the environment.
options, a lot of weird ones, and then a lot of like normal, neutral, true-based toned film.
I do think that's what I like about it. Like, again, going back to that New Zealand trip, and I think you mentioned it yesterday, if you're planning to go somewhere, you're kind of thinking through what films am I purposely choosing for the colors that I want at the given scene
You have to be
versus
mindful.
just picking one
Very
and going,
demure.
you have to be
And
mindful.
cutesy.
No, at the end of the year, like where you like, if I'm going to go shoot a shoot, like if I know like, oh, I'm going to shoot this
Shoot a
person
shoot.
in this environment, I know I'm going to want to pick a specific film for that
Yeah.
shoot. So
Right.
it's like,
Yeah.
and all of us I think have done pretty frequent like specific shoots and stuff. So it's like that's why I like it because it's like I have so many options. Where like if it's like with digital, it's like, oh, I'll just go shoot it and then I have to edit it. Whereas with film, if I shoot a roll of gold at sunset, it's gonna look phenomenal. I think usually if I'm doing a shoot, so that's why I was like I like it.
Oh, I love planning what film stocks I'm shooting, when I'm shooting them. Like if I'm going on multiple day vacation, I'm planning what days I'm shooting them, where we're going. Okay, we're going to a battleship. I'm going to shoot Pan F and get like those really contrasty photos, or Metropolis, or like constantly like, where am I going to be? How much film am I bringing? Will I still have this film on my camera by the time I want to change it? Which now that I think I've shot a lot more film and I'm just been doing it for a while, I have one of the photo memo books that we have. So buy one. It's awesome.
They're great.
But I will take out a roll of film midway through shooting it. So I'll take note of the image I left off on, rewind it, listen for when it pops off of the advancement side so that there's still part of the leader out. Roll it up, whatever's left, open it, put it in a canister, and then mark on it what day I took it out, how many images were left, and then it has all the information of the stock and everything like that. So, and then I'll change the
Very
roll
demure.
and do
She
it
will
like
not
that.
edit. That's why she literally will
Yeah, there's been a
pull out
couple
roll of
times
film.
you've come in with your AE1. I'm like, Ava, let's go out and shoot a video. She's like, oh wait, I'm halfway through a roll. Let me rewind it and I'll go back to where I am.
Yeah.
Very conservatory.
Well, it's like I want to shoot it in several different locations, but I don't want to keep it in my camera because I want to shoot other films.
Just buy multiple rolls of film.
Or you could take multiple cameras.
I just buy a ton of gold and just shoot through a whole roll. And that's
Are there any exceptions to editing film that you guys would make? You seem to be diehard. I would never do it.
So
but
I know
are
we
there
talked
exceptions?
about too, like I would never do this, or I've gone back and forth on it. But shooting a whole like wedding on film, like shooting
Or
a whole
changing 'em.
like shooting a whole wedding on film. Like I might do that, but I usually would have some sort of digital backup in case, let's say, on the
Coward.
off chance the film gets ruined or like the processor, like I mess up something or something happens and all the film's ruined. I would never shoot a whole roll, but it's like in that case, it's like, okay, if I shoot something and let's say I accidentally underexposed all my images, I'm going to take those into Lightroom because someone paid for a specific thing. So that's different where it's like, whatever I mean, I'm not editing my photos just because it's for me. But if I'm doing something for someone else and something's off on it, I'm going to edit it because I don't want them to have their memories of like one specific time that they can't do again ruined by the fact that I messed up. So like I would edit in that situation where it's like, if I shot a whole...
If you messed up.
Right, so if I messed up, I would, but that was only in this
But it's
under
not-
the
it's not
guise
for
of
you.
someone's paying
It's
for
for
what
them.
I'm doing.
So if it's like client work, you're willing to...
If I mess up, but I won't mess up, so I'm just kidding.
John's rolling out with the Kodak Gold. Get my exposure perfect every time.
No, but I think
I-
I think that's one thing which I've gone back and forth. I've actually been thinking about it all like last night because I was like, would I? I was like, I think if it was a wedding situation or like a
feel like
maternity shoot or something where it's like you can't really redo it. The moment's gone. Okay, I'll adjust my contrast or some of the colors if it's completely ruined. But even then, I mean, you'd have to really screw up for me to have to.
It would have to depend on how badly it was. If it was like they didn't develop long enough or something like that happened, where it's like it just either
But
the
even then, I
portions
can't
were
think of,
off
like-
on the chemistry and it just didn't develop all the way. That
Yeah,
like
but
that kind
doesn't,
of thing
that
though.
doesn't really happen. I
That's
mean,
like never
I'm
happened.
we
saying
run
like
control strips. I mean, unless there's like a catastrophic failure. But
That's what
I think
I
generally
mean.
speaking, if you go and shoot a wedding and you expose well, would you still edit those? Would you still
if
edit?
I exposed it well,
yeah, if you're
no.
yeah, so you would just leave it.
But that's
as
where, like,
is. Okay.
I don't know. Like, it's kind of weird because even if I did get back a roll of film that I didn't love, I still wouldn't edit it because
It's film.
I just don't see the like need for it. Like
I-
if it's a well exposed roll of film, or even if it's underexposed,
If
I'm still
I-
not going to change the color
Yeah.
shift in Lightroom.
If
That's-
I
there's no need.
exposed, sorry, were you done?
No, I was saying like I
All
just
right,
don't
Bree,
need
set
it.
them straight.
I don't think that editing your film digitally takes away from its analogness. That's not a word,
It
but
does.
you know what I
I
mean.
feel like it
Takes away
adds.
from the realism.
It's like adding a filter to your Instagram
no,
post.
it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's
It
not.
is.
But who would know?
Exactly. I know.
Okay.
It's also too like one thing that I
I know
like
for
is
me.
I shoot a lot of different stocks. I like to see the differences. So like if I pull it into Lightroom and edit it, then I'm like, that's not really the true look of the film. You're
Right.
changing it.
Any
so that's
lighting
where
adjustments that you're doing, that information's all there in that photo. You're just choosing
right, but that's
to
where I'm
bring
like,
it
I
in
just
or
don't like
out.
to like. Why would I change it? Like, there's no need to. Like, it doesn't make sense. I'll just shoot a different roll of stock of film if I want a different
I'm
color.
not talking about the colors. I'm talking about lighting.
Lighting,
You
just
just know.
exposed correctly.
Well, like when
Like,
you've
it's-
shot film for a while, you learn also what to meter for, and that'll affect your the exposure of the whole image. And as you get more into film photography, or like shoot it more and more and more, you'll know it's gonna be bright here. It's gonna be dark here. The shadows are gonna be dark here because I'm exposing for the sky. So like there are certain things like that that's like once you're doing it for a while, you'll kind of know what they'll look like, or at least what the exposure should look like. And every once in a while, you're like, oh, kind of messed that one up, but I'll just brighten the density a little bit on the scanners, and that's good to me.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't hit a situation to where I'm like, I need to edit these film photos. It's like, I'm shooting it for this look. I did pretty well with the exposures. I'm not going to like take it. Maybe I will hit a situation. If I do, I'll tell you guys. But I haven't hit a situation yet where I'm like, this film needs to be edited. But
just recently, I edited a photo, and I didn't edit the entire image. Okay, it was just, I masked part of it because I was like, this one specific part just isn't sitting right with me, and I wanted to perfect it, so I edited it. It just warmed up just a tiny little portion of it.
But that's one thing about filming, like it's imperfect. Like I don't like the idea of perfecting because like I like the blemishes, I like the imperfections because that's
I like my
part
work
of why
perfect.
I shoot film.
I guess John can't say this.
Well, like I like my digital perfect. I just don't like my film.
John
perfect.
has
That's why
low
I shoot
standards.
it. That's just why I shoot film. I just like the imperfection and I like the mistakes. I like to be able
Yeah.
to say like,
I think I like that component of film is like you somewhat get what you get. But
The natural
again, there's
state.
nothing wrong with kind of tweaking things. I don't think you're losing like the film look
Yeah.
even with an
No.
edit. Like if someone were to post photos like this is Kodak Gold and then ask, is this edited or not? I guarantee you would not be able to tell. Unless it was like something really wild
that's
edit.
like it depends.
But if
Like
they
that's
tweak-
think
kind of
we
what I'm
should test that
thinking
out.
now.
yeah, we need to test it. Do a blind test and be like, was this Kodak Gold? We'll have 2 images and be like, which one was edited?
That's I was like too like when I think of editing, I think of like changing it for it to look a specific way. Like if you're just tweaking stuff, it's like
You know, he's changing his
but that's like doing the
definition.
same thing on the scanner. I'm not changing.
Hey,
I'm
we
just saying like
clarified the definitions.
it's just tweaking is like I don't know. It's like whatever. Like
Tweaking.
I don't
do your
know.
thing.
Tweaking is
if,
editing.
if it's that
In
little
my
of a tweak, it's
mind-
probably not that big of a deal. Just
Right.
post the image.
See.
In my mind,
See.
tweaking is editing.
No,
See,
I'm
he's-
saying no.
No,
I'm
I
saying no.
like
If you
mine.
have to,
Changing.
Yeah, we're
if it's a
winning.
minor tweak, it's not that big of a deal anyways. Just move on.
No, it is.
I don't know. I feel like too when I'm posting either on Instagram or whatever, I'm trying to show exactly what the film looks like without any color shifts or things like that. So
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if we're going to solve this. Bree, you had quite the fiery comment yesterday before our audio went
You
out. So
did.
final thoughts, Bree?
Yeah, my final statement is that film is not dead only because of its now digital aspects.
Which is
I
makes no sense because
have literally no words.
You work in a place where you scan your film.
yeah, but it's
That's digitizing your film.
Yeah, but it's not.
Yeah,
'cause
but
I'm
even darkroom
digitally
printing-
editing it. It's because I'm just making it a digital file. It's not. That doesn't make any sense.
Film would still be alive because of darkroom printing.
No,
I don't know.
I don't think
Yeah.
so.
No, I
don't
kind
think
of
so.
agree with Bree because we live in the digital age.
Yeah, but it's not- the
we,
thing's not-
people want their films scanned.
Yep.
Are you
and so
saying-
digital images
But
on
the argument's
phone.
not digital images. The argument's editing your film. It's
Yeah.
not argument of like, are we allowing
And
digital
because
scans?
of its digital aspects, you can edit it and make it perfect just the way you want it to.
But that's not the argument, though.
yes, it is. He doesn't want to lose. It's okay, John.
I'm just saying that's not the
You
argument.
can accept defeat. It's
Digitalizing
okay.
your scans was not the argument. Should you digitalize? I think you definitely should. The argument was editing your photos, which I don't do. But if you want to, you do that. But me personally, I don't.
I don't want to. I like the natural state of the film.
That's where we'll leave it, people.
Okay. Well, I don't think we're going to solve this debate today. But if you're listening, we appreciate you tuning in. Leave us a comment. Do you edit your photos? Why or why not? If you do, you're the best. We'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
Bree's dead to me.